And just before I hand over the microphone to him, I'd like to invite Melody to give us a little melodious spoken word, just to put us in the right mood. Can we put our hands together for Melody? Melody, where are you? You would think Melody is a woman, but that's the stage name. Melody. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. We were taught by our teachers that the sun rises from the east and sets on the west. But what they didn't teach us was that the present-day Garden of Eden is a place called Nigeria. That this place where we find our feet planted like the Iroko is nothing short of heaven, even though our mouths have been trained to call it a living hell, forgetting that Rome was not built in a day. Forgetting that there are no perfect systems or perfect people, but people perfecting the system. Forgetting that the home would always be where the heart is, even though the roof is leaking, even though the walls are cracking. We can't fold our arms and watch our mouths do the job of nation building. So imagine if that man on the streets bubbling with negative emotions like, forget that talk about Nigeria. Maybe today we started to hear him. Imagine if he could embrace the resilient, patriotic, inclusive Niger spirit. Imagine if religion and tribe were given a back seat and true democracy personified with love for nationhood given the front seat. Nobody go carry us go where we don't know. So here is the square root of the problem. A government of the people, for the people, and by the people. You would agree with me that the constant in this equation is the people. And if governance is the will by which the will of the people can be achieved, then the people must be ready to support the government that they are put in motion. I mean, the people must be ready to support the government with Spartan devotion. Because this land filled with milk and honey that we talk about is no rocket science. The very art of navigating through its complexities requires all hands to be on deck. And I dream of a Nigeria where food security is not just a dream, but a walking reality. So this is to the people of Kaduna, the center of learning. If one can teach one to teach the other that education is the bedrock of every society, we will be on the path to greatness. This is for the people of Lagos, the center of excellence. We are looking up to you like Big Brother to Nigerianize and redefine the meaning of excellence so that it's encoded in our DNA. This is for the people of Anambra, the light of the nation. Of what use is your light when your people are becoming a shadow of themselves? Arise and shine so that others will be enlightened by you. This is for Benue, the food basket of the nation. There is a clarion call for you to multiply. This is for the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. In the words of Ahmadu Bello, the things that unite us are stronger than the things that divide us. So we must rise and forge our stories so that the next generation can indeed sing, Nigeria, we hail thee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Of course, that reminds us of Mahatma Gandhi's wise words. We will certainly heal. A little adjustment, please. I earlier on invited Professor Ngozi Odu, but she chairs the session tomorrow. So we're going to invite at the moment His Excellency Mahmoud Shinkafi, former Governor of Zamfara State, to the podium. Your Excellency, sir. Please let's put our hands together. And I'll just hand over the microphone to the chairman, BOT of the Forum for Former Deputy Governors, to start this session. Okay, you have a microphone. And I'm told, sir, you have 15 minutes. Thank you, sir.
بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Your Excellency, the National Chairman, who is the Grand Patron of this forum, Your Excellencies, panelists, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I've been taken aback. Neither the National Chairman nor the DG or anybody told me that I was going to play this role. Especially papers presented by professionals in their own field. The Mala Isa Ozi and the professor have done justice to their papers. But I think since my role is just to coordinate, I'm not going to speak or comment on the papers. So let me start by asking the people, the audience, because that paper was read for us to listen, hear, digest, and be informed and analyze and work on what they said. So let me ask the audience. But let me say, already there was a question posed by one of the participants here, one of the audience. He has went to one of our friends and colleagues, Professor Okbaji, the former Minister of Education. He has posed a very important question to the paper presented by the Professor of Finance. So let me start by giving you this paper to comment on the paper and the questions he has posed.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, I got your question. The first has to do with the station data that I presented. But if you get with the full presentation, you will see that I went back as far as 14. I showed average inflation rates for those years to demonstrate the fact that the monetization of fiscal deficits by the central bank, in other words, the ways and means that we had over time, which today, has accumulated to, you understand, 30 trillion naira. The ways and means helps to fuel the current inflation we have today. We also saw the ways and means impact even on the exchange rate. So I used that to demonstrate that the central bank inability to stick to what is provided in Section 38 of the Central Bank of Nigeria Act of 2007, that to ways and means, contributed to the inflationary pressure. You will also find in that presentation the data on GDP. GDP data also went as far as 2015, because the last time we saw very high GDP growth rate was in 2014, when GDP was above 6%. But if you look at GDP growth rate from 2015 to date, take the average, what I got was 1.6%. Average GDP growth rate from 2015 to date. Remember the last one we saw, second quarter 2024, GDP came in at 3.1%. So the average is 1.6. Recall that in 2016 we had recession as a result of the collapse in oil price. We also had recession in 2020. Now the point is this: as long as you don't grow above population growth rate, okay, your GDP will impact of GDP. I think then the final question you asked about banks, right? Banks. Okay. If you pick a typical bank financials, today a number of banks are carrying huge profits, half-year profits. You realize that yes, much of the profit is coming from interest income. Interest income, partly on account of the fact that again the central bank has been tightening policy between February this year, for example, and now central bank has increased the monetary policy rate by 850 basis points. Okay. So if you look at that, and each time central bank increases the MPR, what do banks do? They quickly respond by jacking up their own interest rate. So banks have been making money from the central bank's increase in rates. In Europe, for example, if you look at the history of windfall tax in Europe, arose as a result of the rate hike too that the Bank of England and European Central Bank, did. Because of that, banks made money, and then the government turned around and said, pay windfall tax. Here, government is not saying pay windfall tax on account of the rate hikes, but on account of the exchange rate gains, they made. So, to answer the question, one, from interest income, and second, again, a number of banks too, of course, have also been involved in forex. So they are also making money from exchange gains, and are making from interest income, and from other activities that are not the core banking, the traditional fund. That's my explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Before I ask you a question, I think there's a compelling need for me to hear from the panelists on some of the issues raised by the paper presenters. Let me go right on my extreme right. Ambassador Lualchulu.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Prof, because if you look at what's going on now, particularly about treasury bills, when they first came out with it, the interest rate was around 20%. Within 2 months, it went down to 17%. And now, I don't think they are even interested again. At that time, people were now rushing to buy treasury bills, thinking that it's better to earn interest on the money saved than going to business. So I agree with you that the advice of the Central Bank, World Bank, wasn't proper enough.
Thank you, Excellency. Let me little to the left. There used to be political parties. One a little to the left, one a little to the right, of which I belong. Let me move to my left to hear from His Excellency, because he was not Deputy Governor. He worked for 8 years, and he later was lucky to become an executive governor of Zamfara State. So, Your Excellency, I know you are a businessman, a merchant, an expert in commodities. And given the presentation of the professor, let us hear some of your views.
Okay, thank you very much. The essence about this all is about good governance and a strategic solution to it, especially put security and sustainable growth. It is just mentioned by Alhaji Isa Odi Salami about other things that should be done, which the government really is trying at the moment. He mentioned about employment of our teaming youth that are qualified to be in many sectors of the economy. So that is necessary to tap the potentials of the youth in our population. So that is number one, what the government should do for sustainable growth in the country. Food security is achievable in Nigeria because generally all the speakers mentioned about the availability of arable land in Nigeria. Only about 30% is put under utilization. And if we, let's say, put like 70% under utilization, with the factors we have in Nigeria, with the population we have in Nigeria, Nigeria can accommodate comfortably up to 400 million people if we put these real sectors of the economy into action, like this agriculture. So it is possible what this forum organized for food security. The country is very much capable of attaining that food security and sustainable growth because of all the factors available. He said about what the Professor Ozisalami mentioned. Before he finished, he mentioned about Ajakuta. Professor mentioned it. That is another factor of the factors that we have in Nigeria. When you put it into action, at least we can employ about 50% of our youth and improve our GDP. And that is all we needed in the country to have sustainable growth. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Excellency. Now let me go back left, right again, and hand over the microphone to His Excellency, the current Deputy Governor of Bauchi State. Over to you, Excellency.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Excellency, the DOT Chairman. Yes, I have listened with rapt attention the presentation of the professor here by my side and the contributions given by some of the people that I am here with. First and foremost, to be able to analyze, assess, analyze, and see to how we are going to improve on the sustainability, good governance. I think we need to critically go back and look into those factors that brings about what we are in today for. Unless we address the aggressive factors that seems to overcome the defensive factors we have, definitely the country will not have it right. When you look at our policies, we definitely need to have a change of mindset. For you to be able to maintain sustainability and good governance, we need to critically see what is happening in our agricultural sector. Before the emergence of oil or the discovery sometime in 1950s or before the oil boom in 1973, 75, what was the driving force of this country? It was agriculture. Unfortunately, when the oil was discovered, we 100% deviate and solely rely on mono-economy on oil, thereby abandoning our agricultural activity, which was the basement of our development, even in the 1950s, 60s, and in the early 70s. The issue also that contributed to the problem we are today is the issue of insecurity. The security of life and property is the basis for every governmental development. Today you cannot go to farm in most of the areas where farming used to be what? Source of livelihood. In the southwest, today, Dampara, Sokoto, Katsina, there are places that you don't dare step out 500 meters from your comfort zone, from your houses. We need to go to farm to be able to provide what is needed for export what is needed for us to feed ourselves and what is needed to stabilize what? Stabilize our exchange rate. And thereby what? Having a multiplier effect of affecting the what? The inflation rate as well as the borrowing and whatever things that we are happening today. Therefore, we must intensify. We must make sure that security is prioritized. Security has become a necessity for each and every household, for each and every family, for each and every village, for each and every state, for us to be able to have a basis of what? Of improving on the situation of our economic situation as well as economic stabilization. If we are able to get that right, I believe all others will follow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. The professor and Alhaji Isa were paper presenters. So I would like to allow them to give them the final time so that when they make one or two things, that will summarize whatever they say. So let me, somebody who's behind, yeah. Ask your question. Don't ask too many questions.
Okay, that's right.
I'm not taking.
Okay, sir. I want Prof. Sorry, let me just summarize so that I manage my time very well. I want the professor, I don't want to call your name wrongly, the professor that delivers something on the monetary policy. The challenge I have is that application of MPC rate, interest rate, to determine the money supply in the system. And the effect of it, if we have practiced a particular system for almost 1 year plus now, and the result is negative, we are not getting positive results, inflation continue to increase, we need to continue with that system. You see, practically, empirically, MPC, money supply, to control inflation is an old economic theory that is good for classroom. It doesn't work in empirical sense, in real life. Because the CBN governor recently said if inflation continues to increase, MPC will continue to increase. If it gets to 30, that is the potential of cost of borrowing. And let me say one fact. 90% of the money in circulation is in the hand of the few elites, 10% probably. They will not be affected by that policy. Believe me, the remaining 10% who has the remaining 90% of the populace who has less than 10% of the money in their hand, they have already killed their potential of overdraft, term loan from the bank. In fact, I've been a victim. I borrowed money from DBN at 22. I'm paying at 30 something. DBN that is meant for SME, that is set up for SME. The reality is that a system we've practiced for 1.5 years, let our government listen, it's not working. That theory is.
I hope you're not presenting another paper.
The reality is what I'm telling you, with all due respect. And another thing is that, you see, I want to comment on what the other professor said about conflict among the government agencies in policies. You see, in those days, in the 70s, we used to have what is called FACU, Federal Coordinating Units. Any policy that wants to come out, the affected agencies, the affected ministries will first have a first hearing of those policies before it. In those days, in the 70s, I think it's called Federal Coordinating Units that coordinates policies among the ministries. Another thing I want you particularly to comment about is if we continue to apply the MPC, what alternative do you have as a way of controlling inflation other than MPC? Government should just jettison the MPC phenomenon.
Thank you. Okay. Dr. Nkeri. Yes.
Mine is a contribution.
Okay, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yes. I know and I believe that whatever we are going to produce here will help to drive government policies. About 30 years ago, I used to be Commissioner for Agriculture. And then we used to have agric extension workers. Most of them were HND holders, some were agric engineers, and I happened to travel to India also. I went to a state called Haryana. I discovered that to hold these youths, these young educated people in the farm, you must provide them polished accommodation, because at weekends they want to go to town. So I believe that funding, adequate funding, that will enhance training. In fact, we used to run a farm plantation called Abia Palm. If you don't provide those young people a cushioned accommodation, they will stay inside the bush. So, government is good we are coming with our report at this time. There has to be increased funding, because this is the engine room of the ruling party's renewed agenda. Because, like the former Minister of Education said, there's no security if the stomach is hungry. So I'm saying, in addition, because the first speaker mentioned it in passing. He mentioned funding, he mentioned training. But there is need for the country to know that this is where we are going, and that it will cost money, it will require training, and people will be recruited to actually go to the farms and teach even the people doing it in a subsistence way, so that they can know how to even space the inputs. Farming cannot yield or help the economy if it is not done scientifically. So funding, training is important. Thank you.
Yes, excellent.
Your Excellencies, I may beg to disagree with Issa on the groundnut pyramids. He said they disappeared because we are adding value locally. That's why we don't have them anymore. But I think the reason is that with the discovery of oil, handouts, cheaper money is coming bigger than what you'll get from the groundnut farming. So they abandon it. I experienced this. I worked with Ashaka Cement Company for more than 20 years. Before then, they were very good farmers, fishermen, because the Gongola passes just behind the company. They especially dry season farming. But when we started production, they all abandoned all those things and came to the gates of Ashaka. They were getting more money there than going to the farm. Thank you very much.
I'll take two more. Yes. And the last one there. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm Professor Batunde, Senior Advisor to Secretary to the Government of the Federation. So I wanted to pass an information to the penultimate speaker who mentioned coordinating unit of policies. Right at the presidency there, we have policy coordination unit, which is headed by Dizavala. I'm a member of that committee. And one of the major things we do is to harmonize policy between MDAs to make sure that there are no conflicts. And of course, where the strength of one MDA ends, or the weakness of one MDA ended, the strength of another one begins. So it's our responsibility to make sure that they work smoothly together to deliver on the issues of governance. So that does exist at the Office of the SGF as a way of information, sir.
Thank you. We are fully involved. Yes?
My name is Godwin Oyin from Radio Nigeria. Professor Walike has been our most valuable resource person every time. I'm happy to see him, and I'm happy to hear his contribution. So we are looking at strategic solutions on issues here, food security, and what? Sustainable growth in Nigeria. So what I'm going to say is, one, I'm going to talk on two issues and ask questions on those two.
I'm giving you 2 minutes.
Okay, sir. So, on strategic solution for food security, I say, if we don't have personal security, we can't sustain food security. Because if you can't go to farm, as the Deputy Governor of the state has said, it will not be. So, what is the solution strategically? Now, we have issues. Our security persons are doing their best, but we need to go digital technology in addressing insecurity, because drone can be deployed to go and service those elements without risking the life of any of our security personnel. We need to go that way. If I have to give examples of how it is, let me not go to the examples, but please and please, we have the authorities here, deputy governors, you were chairman of boundary committees, and we look at the issue of border control. It is alarming. We can even use this security to control our borders. Our borders are porous, and we have ungoverned spaces. All this, we can use technology to do what? If we address it, insecurity will disappear. And that's my strategic suggestion. Security through the use of technology, because other countries are going that way. On sustainable growth and development, we have one issue that is disturbing us now, fuel subsidy and the follow-up and the issues arising. Now, what is going to be done? Let us refine petrol at home so that the issue of inflation here and there on this and that, even on food, will go down drastically and automatically. So please and please, I'm begging the APC chairman to take this message, and then the governors, former deputy governors, to say that this is what they have seen on ground. If we do not refine at home, we have never started. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My question is directed to Professor Walike. Now, sir? Okay, sir, I'll very fast. Now, I am surprised, sincerely, because Nigeria is owing so much debt, and yet we still keep taking more loans. As I yesterday, I read papers that the president has applied to the World Bank IMF to apply for another $500 million loan. Is it that there's something about this issue of loans that we don't know? Because we keep taking loans virtually every month. What exactly is the problem? Then I want to make some recommendations. During Buhari's time, when he was Ministry of State, I know Nigeria had the trade by barter system, whereby they took loans from China, America, and then they gave them crude. Can't we explore the same strategy? The ones where we can probably get someone like a consultant or an aggregator. Okay, we have gas in abundance, we have crude. Okay, you take the resources and then we use it to set some of the bills. And so I don't know, because I'm a lawyer, there are times that some of our clients cannot pay. So we tell, okay, if you have land, bring the land or bring the vehicle. We can exploit the trade by barter system if it is feasible. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Excellency, our senior brother. This was a deputy governor when I was, I think, in the secondary school. Your Excellency, sir. Bring that mic. He was a deputy.
Carry on, sir. Okay. Okay.
Who was the first
Assalamu alaikum. Chairman of the forum, His Excellency, the former governor of Kano State and currently the chairman of the ruling party, all other courtesies observed. I see that we have the theme of the session we are in now is strategic solutions to 3 issues. 1, good governance. 2, food security. And 3, sustainable growth in Nigeria. I've talked a lot about good security and sustainable growth in Nigeria. Before I make further statements, I want to appreciate the step already taken by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in a desire to ensure that something is made available to 774 units, that's the local governments in Nigeria, for development of their areas. The spirit is good and it's a big plus for President Bola Tinubu. I appreciate it. Then, subsequent political developments and follow-up are such that as an elder who had served as deputy governor in this country 41 years ago, I see something which goes counter to what the president has said. And it is this: a situation where local government elections are held and where the governors belong to different political parties. And each of the political parties, not one political party, all of them that produce governors, want to ensure that all the local government elections in each of the states, all of them must be won by their party. It is not healthy. It is not healthy. I'm saying this as an elder. As so many elections are taking place currently, I want to say that that development should be...
Your Excellency, let me just brief you.
No, I have concluded.
On that local government issue, process is underway in the National Assembly that probably will address those issues. But as it is today, there is nothing anybody can do. So we cannot even take our time discussing that issue. But let us wait until the National Assembly amends the Constitution based on the judgment of the Supreme Court. Then we will see what we do. Let's move to another topic.
It's okay, it's okay, but this is a...
You will not understand me.
Okay.
Because we are not part of us. We came in 1999. You came when Adasu was the governor of Benue State. There was no Kwara. There was... So, 41 years ago, I was still I was a teacher in one primary school.
I stick to my elder.
So the Constitution we're operating provides for that legacy. But when the Constitution is amended, sir, I'm sure that the amendment will address that issue based on the Supreme Court judgment. So let us not take our time to debate on it because it's not going to be possible. Let us move to another issue.
I have not indicted any party. All the parties across, all of them are guilty of this. I'm saying it's not healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. That was Malan Suleiman, who was the deputy governor to Adasu in the then Benue State. That was during the MPN SDP days, when I was still a student in ATC Kano. Thank you, gentlemen. Let me now almost conclude. You want me to give you 10 minutes? 1 minute? Can you do that in 1 minute?
Yes,
do it
sir.
in 1 minute. Then I'll go with them, then we close.
Yes, sir. Just 1 minute. Permit me to lie on existing protocol. My name is Morgan Bob Manuel. I'm from Africa Polish Initiative. And my question is very straightforward here. I was waiting to hear a bit about our natural mineral extraction. Those areas
but like the great professors were silent about it. So I am begging you, please, what's the way forward with what is happening in Nigeria? Thank you.
Thank you. The question is apt, but I have two panelists here. Let me see whether they will talk on that issue. Otherwise, our senior brother Mahmoud Shinkabi has some remarks to make on that your question. But let me go to the professor. Let me give you a minute or two.
Okay, yeah, to respond, I think two questions were posed to me directly. One on the monetary policy, and then on fiscal side, that's the public debt. Let me start with the monetary policy. Yes, I'm equally worried that the MPR is high. But again, let's not dispute the fact that in terms of information asymmetry, the central bank has an advantage. There are things the central bank, in terms of information, the things they know that may not be in the public domain. I've had cause to discuss with some members of the Monetary Policy Committee, including two deputy governors of the central bank, and they've also tried to, convince me why they needed to raise the MPR. Now, yes, the ultimate is inflation. The ultimate target is inflation, but and the intermediate target, you could say, is money supply. But there are other, secondary objectives. One of which is, for example, the issue of, forex, the exchange rate. Okay, today, part of why our reserves have gone up to over $38 billion, more than enough to finance 14 months of, goods, is because of this aggressive monetary policy. So central bank needs to raise the rates. When rates are low, if you notice in US, in the UK, for example, recently, the Bank of England dropped their policy rate below 2%. Okay, in the UK, rates are coming down. So when rates are coming down in developed economies, what is that on a risk-adjusted basis, it pays them to come and invest in, developing economies. So to attract foreign investors, particularly foreign portfolio investors, you need to raise the rates. So that's what the central bank has done to be able to get forex and to be able to intervene in the forex market. So that's one form of it. Of course, we also know that when you also raise rates, when you raise interest rates, you also tend to, discourage, you tend to encourage savings one way or the other, okay? It's assumed that if rates are up, savings will go up. So that's on the one side. But again, I admit that there are, consequences, there are side effects, which includes the cost of, doing business, which is why some of us are also worried that rates are, keep going up. So I agree with you that there is need to strike a balance. Okay, we can't continue to raise rates. Ours is about the highest in sub-Saharan Africa at 27.25%. Ghana is 27%, even though inflation rate in Ghana is, below, at 20%. And to make matters worse, the cash reserve requirement for Nigeria is the highest in Africa at 50% for commercial banks, 16% for merchant banks. So it's very high. And that is what we are saying. And in spite of all that, just as Prof mentioned, the banks are also declaring profit. Now, finally, on the issue of, now, before I come to that, what is to be done? The fiscal side too has to help. I'm a member of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, and I can tell you from inside information, if what we have recommended, the much we have done, we've been working for the last 1 year, if what we have recommended, we've implemented even 50%, the entire fiscal space will change, small businesses will, breed, and they will be able to produce. So once we increase output, we can be sure that inflation rates will come down. I'm sure you have read about what we put in the part of what entered the economic stabilization bills, all the tax reliefs and waivers, particularly for small businesses. I'm pretty sure they will help to boost output. Finally, on public debt, there is not, in my view, nothing wrong with borrowing, particularly taken from concessional sources. Look at the infrastructure challenge we have in this country. Nigeria has the least, in terms of infrastructure stock to GDP, Nigeria is 35%. South Africa is 80%. So we can't fill the infrastructure gap just by relying on annual budgetary allocation. How much is your budget, for 2024? The entire budget of the Federation, not more than $50 billion. But we require to put in $100 billion on an annual basis for the next 10 years to plug the infrastructure gap. That's not what we can do, from taxes or revenue. We need to borrow. But in borrowing, we need to borrow right. We need to apply them to, projects, which is why I always support the use of infrastructure bonds when we are borrowing. If you want to do railway, do it in railway bond. Do road bond. Don't just borrow and, in the hope of, putting an infrastructure, because that may not. So there's nothing wrong in borrowing. Let's borrow, particularly from concessional sources, and let's apply them to very good use. Thank you.
Thank you. I
have only one question to respond to from His Excellency Madam Nuhu Bajoga, the Governor, Ambassador to Poland. He's questioning the issue of farming and so on. While what I said is very true, what he has said is also very true. It is just a matter of a small part of the whole. But what I said is the real prevailing situation. Exceptions here and there, just like somebody said, I think somebody said I think it's even the chairman who said that in the ocean, a little water there spoiled doesn't mean that the whole ocean is spoiled. So I think it's just a matter of a degree. But certainly what I said is very true because I experienced it. So I'm talking from experience. Remember, I was in textiles in Kaduna, and we were looking for cotton and so on and so forth. At one time, we needed to even import cotton from West African sub-region because the production of the farmers was not enough, and so on. So remember the days when they were doing this accumulation. They were taking just everything raw abroad. So therefore, there was enough room for the pyramids to be developed. But when now there's need for these things, you find that it is not possible. Just about last week, I was in Ilorin to chair a panel of the Federal Ministry of Environment on a flour mill, soya mill there. And it was then I realized that even the production of soya beans was so scanty that was not enough for the particular people. So they were having to sensitize local farmers around the Ilorin to produce because it would be much easier for them to get from there. So I think that's the only thing that I need to respond to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay. It's about other problems that are affecting sustainable development in the country. You just mentioned about the solid minerals in Nigeria. The effort by this government at the moment, the contribution of solid mineral sector in the GDP is tremendous. It's improved greatly because the government directed that all the solid minerals that are exported outside the country should have value added. I think you know that. Again, about the implementation of the inputs given by the government to the end users, especially the farmers. Normally, the input given to the government, like fertilizers, normally don't get properly to the end users. And that is a problem where there should be some correction by the government. The government should see to it that the inputs given by the government reach the farmers properly. And, the signing of some globalization treaties by Nigeria especially on agriculture, but imported textiles. All of us we are wearing here are imported textiles. So the best thing to protect the country after producing agricultural commodities like cotton, the government should put higher tariffs to protect the local producers. So it is very clear, and if we implement that, definitely we'll have sustainable development in our country. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this panel discussion. We want to thank each and every one of them for giving his best. And we want to thank some of you that were elicited by the presentations of the paper presenters to have asked very salient or raise some fundamental issues that we have not raised. So we want to thank you, and that I say goodbye until we see you tomorrow. Thank you, Excellencies.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's appreciate the panel. Maybe the panel will just step down here. Chairman, please, and the APC chairman, please join them as we have a group photograph here. Just here, just here. Yes. As we organize ourselves for the photographs, I am amazed by the presence of the chairman of APC since morning till now. Your commitment is amazing. Can we appreciate him? Amazing commitment. Amazing commitment. Thank you very much. Thank you. And while the photograph is going on, let me also appreciate here and thank God for your life for keeping you. He was a deputy governor in 1979 under Apaku. And Alhaji Sule Iyaji is still alive and strong. Baba, we appreciate you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, as they settle now, please take your seats. Let me welcome here the Deputy National Chairman South of the Forum, the lawyer, Barrister Hazim Bolarumi, I'd like to welcome you here to give us the closing remarks.
Your Excellency, the National Chairman of APC, our colleague as well, permit me sincerely to stand on the existing protocol. I have a very short assignment, and that is the vote of thanks. On behalf of the National Chairman of the forum of the former Deputy Governor of Nigeria, His Excellency our brother Chris Akuma, the executive member of the forum, the BOT of the forum, we sincerely thank the following: His Excellency Architect Victor Atta, His Excellency Abdullahi Ganduje, who has been very, very supportive. Quite unfortunately, you are not in the same party. It's APC and PDP. So, thank you very much. We really appreciate you. Former Zamfara Governor, His Excellency Maulud Jatau, Deputy Governor, Bauchi State, His Excellency Professor Ngozi Odo, Deputy Governor, Rivers State, Representative of the SGF, Professor Babatunde, the Honorable Minister of Defense, all the who are present. We thank you very much. We appreciate you all. Once again, on behalf of the National Chairman of the Forum, we really appreciate you. We'll be looking forward to see you tomorrow in continuation of this program. Thank you very much.
Well, Barrister, the technical people try to chase you away with the national anthem. Don't mind them. I'd like to recognize and welcome here the APC National Organizing Secretary, His Excellency Suleiman Muhammad Argungu, former Deputy Governor of Kebbi State. I welcome you. And so, we have lunch, the DG told me, lunch that can fill the stomach of about 5,000 people is available. So please, even people at the back, don't go home until you have eaten. The ushers will direct us. And then for those who have collected the invitation card for the dinner tonight, is it 7 or 7:30? 7? 7. Okay. African 7 or 7 for 7? Okay, 7. So I'd like to thank all of you on behalf of my colleague here, Claire Adelabu Abdurazak. I got that now. All right. I say, see you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. God bless all of you. Please make sure you eat something before you go. Shower rice for the national anthem.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribes on differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians old and proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign. In peace all battle honored, and this we count as slain. To hand unto our children a banner without stain.
You know, the line in that second stanza that gets me is handing our children a banner without stain. That's the essence of this conference. See you tomorrow morning.